Let's tip things off by bringing up a guy who literally needs no introduction in this state. 4 years at the University of Iowa, 2,306 points, number one in school history, two-time Big Ten Player of the Year, and in the 2021 season, look, he's already on his way up here. Luka Garza, everyone. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right here.
Fourth year in the NBA, third with the Timberwolves, and Luka, what's it like to be back? Let's start right there.
It's amazing. I think anytime I can come back and play basketball in the state of Iowa, it's a blessing for me and something I'm extremely grateful for.
When you come back, or even up at Target Center in Minneapolis, it's amazing the fan support you have. What was it? What was the connection? I mean, obviously you had a ton of success with the Hawkeyes, but there was something. It seems to be there's something deeper there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been nice to kind of hang around the Big Ten country since I left Iowa, being in Detroit for a season, and then obviously into Minnesota. But the fans in Minnesota are just so passionate, and they love the game of basketball, and that's kind of what I found at Iowa as well. It's very similar in that way with the types of people and their love for the sport. So for me, it's really fun to be able to go out there and play in front of those people.
It's been a few years since you played in this building, and I imagine tonight you've gotten, players get requests all the time on the road for tickets, some family coming, or they know some friends, but I imagine you got a number of requests here for tonight.
Absolutely. A couple of my teammates, former teammates from Iowa, moved up here into the Des Moines area, Austin Ash, Nicholas Baer, a couple of those, and so those guys are going to be there tonight, and a bunch of their friends, a bunch of my friends, and really my family, because when I was here, I was a kid from DC. I'd never been to the Midwest before. I landed at the airport in Cedar Rapids, and I was like, "Where are the buildings? You don't see anything." For miles, and the people here, not only my teammates but the fans and coaches and teachers, whatever it was, just really made this a home for me. And Iowa is a home away from home for me, and it's always going to be a place that's very near and dear. It's special to me.
You mentioned growing up in the D.C. area. You had a number of schools that were interested in you. What kind of connected when you visited Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things. I think, first of all, Coach McCaffrey had a belief in me that not many other coaches had. I was able to play against his son Connor in an AAU tournament that no coaches were supposed to be at. But since Connor was playing, Frank could be there watching, and it was kind of a loophole where he was able to see me for a couple games, and that led to him being able to recruit me from an early age. I was only a sophomore in high school when we really started talking. Throughout 3 years of the recruiting process, I just really felt comfortable. And I came to Iowa City for a visit. I went to a wrestling match in a football stadium. At Kinnick, they were wrestling against Oklahoma State, and the whole thing was full for wrestling. I had never been to a wrestling match before, and obviously got to see a basketball game as well and see Carver, being packed. So I think just with that whole environment and the fans and the culture that was around the sports there, it just felt like home immediately for me.
There were a number of them, but do you have a favorite memory that stands out from your playing days there?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I'd say for me, my number one was, coming up to Ames and beating the Cyclones by about, I think we beat them by like 50, and it was the first time Fran had won in that building. So for me, as a competitor, once I got there, knowing that we hadn't walked out of there with a win as Fran as our coach, that was a mission for me to get done, and especially as a team that my junior year we really found our confidence and our stride after that win, and would have been fun to have the NCAA tournament that year.
And you get your jersey retired there in 2022. That had to be pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously one of the best moments of my life. Just seeing that number going up into the rafters is, for me, it's not only my number. I obviously wore it because of my father, and so seeing that go up, it was more important. I felt like just for our family and our name to just be up there because of all the work that not only my dad but my mom and everyone in my family really put into me and invested into me to make it to that point, to have something like that happen. And it's still something that's surreal. Every time I walk in Carver since, it's an emotional feeling. Looking up there. It's something I never expected when I landed at Cedar Rapids Airport. As an 18-year-old kid from DC. So it's definitely a blessing.
You mentioned your dad, but also it being kind of a group effort. Is that what it was? If I ask you who was the biggest impact in helping your career, is it really more of a group than maybe one individual?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my dad, kind of sticks up above the rest just because he had been there, since I was a little kid, always, putting in time, driving me 90 minutes from, Reston, Virginia to Bowie, Maryland for AAU practice every single day. We'd stop in a Barnes & Noble, get my homework done, and then go to practice, and then he'd be talking to me about what he saw, all this stuff, and, all the workouts, all the different things that, we did over a course of time. That was important, but, beyond that, the rest of my family, but also the family that I had at the University of Iowa with Coach McCaffrey and his staff and all my teammates that really pushed me into being able to do things that I didn't even think was possible. I always wanted to work as hard as I could and reach my potential as a basketball player, but I always kind of left it without specific goals of I want to get this done, I want to get this done, and that kind of allowed me to achieve things that I never thought was possible.
You started your NBA career after Iowa, going to Detroit, played some G League there along with playing with the Pistons. But then the last 3 years, as I mentioned, with the Timberwolves and that connection with Iowa, and you played 18 games here over a 2-year span. What was that like coming back and kind of just seems very symmetrical there. Symmetrical is the wrong word, but a nice tie to be back in the state where you had so much success.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was extremely important, more than people know. After my rookie year and getting cut by Detroit, mentally, you would think still at that point I'd be a super confident basketball player, having done everything I had done, having achieved things that I had achieved. But at that point, I was in a low moment. I had been cut after a season. There was so much noise around my game and my ability to stick at the NBA level. And I think for me, one of the most important things was, being able to come back down here to Iowa, play around these fans, remind myself of who I am and what I've been able to do. And I think that confidence bled onto the court, and I was able to show in the G League very quickly that, quite honestly, I didn't belong down there. And, that was the goal. And, I was able to find that kind of swagger, that confidence that, built me up to be able to help and improve my game, to be at a point where I can contribute and help the Timberwolves. And that was my goal from when I got here. And, I was just it really worked out for me to be back, be teammates with Jordan Bohannon again, get to ride to training camp practice with him. It was just all these memories, these reminders of things that I had done, and all that kind of stuff kind of boosted my confidence level and helped me turn and continue to develop into the player I'm continuing to work on.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting what you said there about going through highs and lows. And you have so much success and you get to this next level, but every other guy you're going against has had that type of success also. What are your goals for this season, and how do you feel confidence-wise heading into year 4?
I feel extremely confident. I've worked on my game, so much. I've worked on my body so much over these years of being in the league, and I think I'm at a place right now where I feel like every opportunity that comes my way, I'm going to take advantage of, and that's really my mindset. I go into this season with no expectations or anything like that. I just know that whenever coach puts me in a situation to be out there, that I'm going to do everything I can to take advantage of that opportunity he gives me. So I'm very thankful to be a part of this Timberwolves organization. It's been such a amazing feeling for me going into work every single day with the teammates, with the people, with the staff, with everything. It's made this process so much fun, and I think sometimes you kind of forget that you're living your dream, and I think that was something my rookie year. I felt so much pressure about proving people wrong, about showing I could stick in the NBA, and it's just like, sometimes you got to be able to sit there and be like, hey, I'm in the NBA. This has been my dream since I was a little kid, and when I'm able to remind myself of that and enjoy the moment and the present, that's when I start to play well, because I'm playing at a level of the game, not trying to prove someone wrong or trying to show something off. I play because I love the game of basketball. I would play it if I wasn't paid to play it. I would still play it every single day. So that's just how it is. Yeah, honestly, as soon as I arrived in Minnesota, it felt like a seamless fit in what he was trying to do. And obviously, with the NBA, there's a lot of action that moves through the bigs, but especially in his system, being a skillful offensive player and offensive mind kind of helps. And that's something I owe all the credit to Fran McCaffrey, because within his system of the motion offense, where pretty much everything is on you. It's not a set play. It's being able to read the game, see what's out there, see 2 plays ahead, know the timing of things. And I think through that, being able to play in that system for 4 years, that allowed me to really grow and expand my IQ of basketball and my offensive mind. So I think that really helps me fit into what Coach Finch is trying to do. And so every time I'm out there, I try to take advantage of that and show that, as well as just I think within anything, playing hard gets a lot done, and that's what I try to do every time I step on the floor is play harder than the guy in front of me.
You've also gotten some experience overseas, playing internationally for the Bosnia and Herzegovina national team. What's that been like?
Yeah, that was such a breath of fresh air for me. That style of play, that intensity level. At that point in my career, I never made a super deep run to playoffs like we did last year, where you feel that kind of intensity on every single possession. Yeah. But in those moments of playing for something more than just money or anything like that, people are playing for their country. There's such a pride and there's such a just level of emotion that goes out on the court that I love to be a part of. And so it was a really incredible experience, and I can't wait to do it again this summer. And every single chance I get, I'm going to be able to go over there and represent, my country, my mother's country, and play with my cousin, who's obviously, closer than a cousin to me. He's like a brother. So for me, it's very special for my family when I'm able to do that.
I guess the next big competition, we just got through the Olympics, would be the World Cup. I don't think that's till 2027, but is that kind of the goal, to help them try to qualify for the World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this February I can't compete, but we have a big game against, Croatia, and the winner of that goes to Eurobasket, and Eurobasket leads to the World Cup, and World Cup leads to the Olympics. It's obviously all throughout these 4 years until the next Olympics. It's all about, winning these tournaments, or, winning enough games to put yourself in the position to make the Olympics. And obviously, coming out of Europe, that's, one of the harder areas with, Croatia, France, Germany, Spain, all of these teams in one, Serbia, all these teams in one area. It's very hard to make it out of. But I think with the guys that we have, Yusuf Nurkic from the Suns, John Musa, who played in the NBA, and now he plays in the highest level overseas for Real Madrid. I think the talent we have is enough to make it happen. And I think the more we play with each other and go through games and experiences, we're going to be better off.
You summed that up pretty well. If you want to go down a deep rabbit hole, look up Olympic qualifying for a sport like basketball. It's all tied together. It's Euro Cups and Euro League. I guess Euro League is for the clubs, but it's on the complicated side. Let's wrap up with this, Luka. Do you feel sort of a sense of pride coming from Iowa, and whether it's the University of Iowa itself or whether it's Drake, whether it's UNI, whether it's Iowa State, sort of representing the game for the state of basketball in Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an honor for me to even be able to be in a position where that's a question that's asked to me. So I do carry a lot of pride in that. I carry a lot of pride in being a Hawkeye, more than any of those other schools. But that means a lot to me. All of the experiences and the memories I have from playing in college, all of the the tough games, the locker rooms after, the highs, the lows, all of that has made me into who I am. And, I often say, but the best decision I ever made in my life was choosing to play for Fran McCaffrey and play at the University of Iowa and be a Hawk. So that's something that is never going to change. And, it changed the course of my career and my life. And, that's how things work. It's all written. It's in, God's plan. And it made a lot of sense for me.
Well, it's great to see all the fan support you get. Not only, I mentioned in Minneapolis, but when we go on the road, too. There are Iowa fans everywhere. Let's give it up. Luka Garza, everybody. Good job, sir.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good work.